General Skywalker, come in.
We read you, Rex? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Standing by. We were worried. You were off the scopes there for a moment.
A moment? We've been gone more than a moment, Rex.
Warthog, protect the gunships. I will take out the fighters.
Copy that, Commander. Have fun down there.
Man down! Man down! General Kenobi, don't land! The zone is hot!
There's nowhere else to go!
Move it, trooper! Come on, double time!
This point forward, we are entering uncharted territory.
Jedi, I have been waiting for you.
I am no Jedi.
Come on then, let's go! Go, go, go!
Hello and welcome to Clone Corner, a podcast about Star Wars The Clone Wars, currently streaming on Disney+. I'm Travis Fishburne.
And I'm Alex Brunel.
And this week, we'll be covering Season 7, Episode 8, Together Again.
A very open-ended title.
Yes. I think, yeah, even after you watch it, you're like, okay. All right, it's about the sisters. That's who's together again. Though you can, there are several together.
Yeah, we'll get into that
happening in this, but yeah, and this is the finale of the Martez sisters arc with Ahsoka and their adventures. Even though it feels, in a way, very different from other Clone Wars arcs that end, because it immediately sets up the next one, which we've said before.
Yeah, and that's something we talked about last week, right?
Yeah, that they've never done this before. And in the Clone Wars download for this week, they said that it was always... There have been several episodes in this season where they've sprinkled some things in, knowing that it's the end. But this episode was always going to have Bo-Katan in it, and Bo-Katan showing up to recruit Ahsoka. So I assume these 4 episodes were always going to be 4 on 4, making this kind of an 8-episode arc to a degree.
Yeah. Not to rehash a whole conversation we had last week, but I do really appreciate that the show is taking a kind of evolutionary step in the writing. I mean, it's late in the game, but I do like that it's not just more of the same formula that we've been seeing from the show for its life prior to this.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it made this arc and the adventure with these characters and everything that led up to it, it made it feel like it was leading to something bigger, and it did have, it's going to have consequences that we're going to see unfold on screen.
Mm-hmm. So, Travis, what did you think about this episode on the whole?
I really liked it. I don't know if it's my favorite of this arc. I might have preferred last episode maybe the best.
I think I agree.
Yeah, even though it does have like a circular storytelling where they end up back in the same situation. I think it was just executed very well. But I did really enjoy all this. I enjoyed seeing the return of Maul, which we knew was going to happen. It was exciting to see that. It was exciting to hear him mention Crimson Dawn.
I am certain Crimson Dawn would love the opportunity to take control of your operation.
That was very cool.
Which makes us tie into Solo. Yeah.
Yeah, Solo. Legitimize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, this has been noted too by more than just me, but the Maul scene calls into question how holograms work in Star Wars.
That's exactly what I thought. He's looking out over the balcony.
And it's not even like I know. It's like that's like one of the least significant parts of the scene, but even in like this like throwaway moment, it kind of asks us to think about how the holograms that we've been watching for 40 years work. Like, are cameras in eyeballs somehow? Like, does that work? An interesting question to be raised for sure by such a small dramatic moment.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think this is like a special case. I think every time we see the holograms talking to each other, it's like always one-on-one person. It's a single connection. Because when Ahsoka
Right.
seemed to get concerned, like, oh, he's gonna look over and see me. I'm like, why are you concerned? Like he's only talking to the Pike guy. And then when he looks over the balcony at the area, I'm like, oh, so we're seeing Maul like this. On the other end where Maul is, he's wearing an Oculus headset and he's in VR, apparently, is what I thought.
I mean, like, there's that question too. Like, if we go back to like Ki-Adi-Mundi in was it episode 3 with the
Yeah.
droid attack on the Wookiees?
Yep.
With that line, and he's a hologram in a chair.
What about the droid attack on the Wookiees?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's that too. Does he have a matching chair where he is?
Yeah.
That
they must.
fits him perfectly into the Jedi throne room chair. Do they have a travel chair?
They have to, apparently.
Yeah. I like this episode too. I like the sisters in this episode. I liked what Ahsoka did. I liked the her embracing kind of what she knows to be good about her Jedi training and the Jedi ideals. And kind of really becoming her own person and realizing that like you can still have these ideals and still have these abilities and like still believe in what the Jedi actually stand for, even if you don't identify with what the Jedi are. I liked that a good bit. One question I had in the sisters plot line, maybe this was just like, maybe I didn't totally understand, but do they get away with a spice shipment?
Wow, that's a good question.
Right, because like they kind of force the what are these guys? I have a note about what these guys are.
The Toongs?
The Toongs.
Yeah.
They kind of like harangue the Toongs until they agree to start loading it. Then they go get the manager, that was a Trandoshan, right?
Yeah.
Before they get the Trandoshan manager, and it seemed like by the time the manager got there, they had finished loading it, and they were just like waiting to go, and then like it never comes up again if they have
because they show
spice
up.
or not.
They show up and they meet with Marg Krim, which is the Pike head there, and they're like, "We have the spice."
Right.
So they have it, and then
So they just have a spice. They just have like this huge, like very valuable shipment of spice that they just have now. I guess that's good.
So I'd never questioned that about this.
Yeah, well, that's on the Pikes for believing this was all like a Republic plot. That's their fault. They could have had their spice.
Yeah. Which was theirs to begin with.
Right. But they could have at least thought that they were making out.
They're gone. They're out 2 spice shipments. Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. The weird little bug face cretins.
Yeah, they're definitely more cool with the masks on than when they have the helmets off.
Yeah, I agree.
Because when Marg Krim, who's the only one like not wearing a helmet, his mask, it's weird. Like the face is so tiny. It looks like a Mardi Gras mask he's wearing the whole time.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Speaking of aliens with weird faces in this episode, to go back to the Toongs.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the Toongs being incorporated into this episode?
I was pretty excited. Because I think, they're
Okay, good.
the same as Ben Quadrineros, who's a really,
Right.
stupid design of a character.
I see Ben Quadrineros from the Twin System.
And,
Yes.
they bring him back in here and they give him like these terrible like voices that just make them sound just so annoying.
So we think that the show is meant to reinforce our negative opinion of the design of Ben Quadrineros.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Quadrineros. Yeah. Because it is a bad design.
Oh, yeah.
It's a ridiculous, cartoonish, unbiological looking thing. It looks like droopy dog, but like if the cheeks were like in Brazil and like stretched out to the side and like a weird face stretching operation.
Yeah. I
okay.
think they also might be like in there in some weird fan servicey way and also a trolling way with Dave Filoni. I know is friends to a degree with Kyle Newman, who's the director of Fanboys, and
Right.
Kyle Newman, his like least favorite character is Ben Quadroneros, but at the same time he has like this like love for the character, and was like really trying to get Ben Quadroneros in the Clone Wars.
Well, I'll put you on the spot right now.
All right, go.
Are you or are you not in favor of Ben Quadroneros being in the show?
Uh-oh.
Ben Quadroneros?
Ben Quadroneros.
No, I don't think there's a space for Ben Quadroneros in the show.
There you have it. There. So anyone
Yeah,
that
I don't think it should happen.
So I think this was kind of a way to satiate that. So I almost like when the Toons started talking, I was like, is this voiced by Kyle Newman? And I looked it up. It's not. It's actually voiced by Josh Brenner, who's Big Head from Silicon Valley.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's
He's
fun.
also Niku in Resistance.
Oh, I shall name you Bebo, and you shall be my friend forever.
Oh, okay. That's funny. Yeah, those camp, and I was just like, really? Like, these guys? But it makes me happy to know that it's probably like a bit of a, at the same time that it's fan service, it's kind of trolling. I like knowing that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. What else in the episode? We had the Mandalorian trio kind of whisk away Ahsoka at the end of the episode, having informed her that, you know, Death Watch is not a thing anymore. Now they have a common enemy.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I'll be interested to see where that goes. Really, the thing I'm most interested in the end is I mean, like, yes, Maul, and yes, like Ahsoka interacting with Maul. I'll be very curious to see in the coming episodes if this turns into like the rest of the show turns into an Ahsoka and Mandalorian anti-Maul murder party kind of scenario, or if other Jedi become involved in the rest of in this last arc. Like if Ahsoka interacts further with Anakin, like if we have another scene with them coming up or another kind of little story with them coming up. That's the thing I'd be most interested to see personally.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's some kind of a contact that's going to be made, whether it's physical or not. It could be just a hologram situation. Right. We also know that Rex is going to play into this.
Do we?
Yeah, it's in Rebels when Rex comes into Rebels and he meets Ahsoka again. He tells her the last time that he saw her was at during the Siege of Mandalore.
We were sent by Ahsoka Tano.
Ahsoka Tano. I fought by her side from the Battle of Christophsis to the Siege of Mandalore, and a friend of hers is a friend of mine.
So,
and that we have not seen yet.
That's what we're about to see.
Cool.
Yeah, and the Siege of Mandalore is also what Giancarlo Esposito's character in The Mandalorian talks about in the season finale of that.
Or perhaps the decommissioned Mandalorian hunter, Din Djarin, has heard the songs of the Siege of Mandalore, when gunships outfitted with similar ordnance laid waste to fields of Mandalorian recruits in the night of 1,000 tears.
Right.
So it's very cool that we're seeing, and now that we know like Ahsoka, played by Rosario Dawson, is going to be in season 2, the Dark Saber, all this, like it's very cool that this series is ending with this thing that's going to have ramifications in like the live action world moving forward.
Yeah. And that's the thing I'm happy that this show is doing for sure, because we still don't have all the pieces to connect like the Mandalorians that we've come to know in The Mandalorian with what we know about Mandalorian culture from the Clone Wars TV series. So I'll be very interested to connect a few more dots on that point, and see how we get from, what we know in the animated series to this secretive, this is the way, almost a cult.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The way that the Mandalorians are portrayed in The Mandalorian is very different from like even Death Watch in the Clone Wars. And yeah, it feels, I don't know how they're going to reconcile all of that. There's also, did you hear the rumor about Jamie Lee Curtis possibly being in season 2 of The Mandalorian?
No.
Yeah, there was a rumor a while back about Jamie Lee Curtis being in season 2 of The Mandalorian. And people were speculating that, oh, would she be, because, you know, obviously when you just put any actor in Star Wars, even when it was like the sequel trilogy, everyone was like, this person either has to be somebody we already know or related to somebody we already know. We have to shrink the galaxy like that. So people are speculating Jamie Lee Curtis playing an older Bo-Katan for The Mandalorian season 2.
Oh, interesting. That could be very interesting for sure.
Yeah. Whether or not any of that comes to pass or not, we'll see.
Right.
When Bo-Katan and their crew follow Ahsoka in that gauntlet starfighter that they have, and they cut to the cockpit, is just like a super clear-cut homage to Boba Fett in Slave One and Empire. From the
it was very evocative of that for sure.
The camera angle and the way that her head is turned, and they're playing like kind of like a bassoon in the same way, like just the sound and everything.
Yeah, good catch. Totally true. Let us, like, I'm trying to think of other stuff to talk about with this episode, but like it kind of just, I liked all the things it does, but it's all very like, it all feels very, there's not a lot of depth to, I feel like, the episode. There, you know, we do get these good character revelations with, you know, the sisters learning Ahsoka's a Jedi and them kind of coming to terms with that and accepting her. I did like the comedy beat of like, I was a Jedi, but I left. You can leave?
Yeah.
Like that.
I think it's kind of like how the audience would feel as well if we had not seen that happen before.
Right. I mean, I guess. That's an interesting thing because that's a thing I read online too when I was reading about this episode, that like, you know, the idea like that being a new idea to fans, that a Jedi could leave the Jedi Order and kind of renounce the thing. And for me, I'm just like, that idea being revelatory didn't even occur to me, because it always seemed to me like, well, like, yeah, like the Jedi aren't that kind of jerks, so like it would make sense for anybody to be able to leave. It's not like, but they, I mean, then again, they do like kind of abduct children and then like indoctrinate them. So you know, the Jedi are weird brainwashy people for sure. So, you know, I don't know. There's a lot to reconcile.
I was going to say it's super rare for them to do, apparently, because in the text of the film, it's not there, but it's in the novelization for Attack of the Clones that we see Obi-Wan like admiring like this bust of Count Dooku, and Jocasta Nu talks to him about like, oh, Count Dooku, like talking about how he left the Order. And there's a few busts of all these Jedi or ex-Jedi in the library there. And they're known as like the Fallen 20 because they're the only 20 people to ever have left the Order.
It's a nice round number for them.
So now it makes me think, oh, do they have to make a new statue and make it 21?
Or are they just going to like pretend that Dooku was never really a Jedi and he was like this evil Sith, and they'll just like destroy his bust and replace it with Ahsoka's.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I'd have to make it 22 because there's also Orson Krell.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it all gets blown up.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't matter.
Doesn't really matter. Yeah.
But yeah, Rafa, I thought she surprised me because when Ahsoka was giving her the plan of like, just trust me, you know, and follow my lead. And that whole sequence where, you know, she lays everything out for them to escape. And Rafa's like, I you know, I'm going to remember this. And she's like, seems angry. And from everything we've seen with the character thus far, I thought like, oh, well, she's just like ignorant enough to actually not play along. And then in the next scene, when it's revealed she did know, I'm like, oh, wow, like that character's portrayal like fooled even me.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I definitely thought, because Rafa has struck me as, like, both of the sisters have struck me as, like, very capable and fairly smart, but not the most experienced with, like, anything they're attempting to do. Mm-hmm. So, like, it totally played to me that Rafa just bought the idea that Ahsoka was tossing them out. I was surprised that the Pikes were just like, okay, yeah, this sounds like a good plan. We'll just let these two go unsupervised to just do whatever and come back with spice. Good idea. Like, what? Like, not even gonna send like a guy.
Make sure, that's would have been a smart thing to do. They're under the gun. They got a lot of pressure from Maul to get that spice to him.
Yeah. So, but the Pikes are to be shown to not make the best decisions at every turn. So.
No.
And Ahsoka just can't help herself. She just needs to bomb the hell out of an enemy stronghold. So she just, as soon as the Martezes are gone, she's just like, all right, where's the thermal detonators? We're gonna start blowing some stuff up here. We gotta get to business.
Yeah, there was Dave Filoni said in the Clone Wars download this week that Ahsoka, as you had mentioned, like some interesting stuff going on with her and like the things that she is embracing about being a Jedi as opposed to being part of the Order, is that like the most true Jedi, in Dave Filoni's opinion, of the prequels is Qui Gon, of like the ideal, like what a Jedi should be. And that Ahsoka, via like, she's kind of like, he'd be the equivalent of, I mean, I guess a great grandfather, because the line would go Obi-Wan, then Anakin, and then her, but she's kind of inherited his teachings via like both Obi-Wan and Anakin and her connection with them. And that it's, as we find out with Luke later and how the Jedi have not operated as that, love is forbidden, but love shouldn't be forbidden. There is a selfless love that you should embrace, as opposed to a possessive love. So you've got like Ahsoka on the selfless love side and Anakin and the possessive love side of things.
Right. Yeah, and that is an interesting point too, because you're right. Qui-Gon is very much an idealized Jedi, like a real, like he believes in the ideal and not the politics.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that we have a prominent character that's carrying that kind of thing forward, because, I mean, just we didn't get enough. I mean, that's the story, but like, we didn't get to experience that much Qui-Gon, and like, Qui-Gon was pig-headed too.
Yeah,
but he kind of figured it out after he died, I guess.
Yeah. But I mean, still, I think he's just like one of the most interesting characters in the prequels, and it's makes his death all that more tragic when it's like, oh, we only see him in the first movie, and how would things have turned out had he been the one to actually train Anakin? What would have happened?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I don't think Obi-Wan got to the point of being so steeped and blinded like Mace Windu and Yoda did. I think that he very much shows that influence of Qui-Gon in the teachings. But again, like, that got muddied enough that by the time that got to Anakin, it didn't work, I guess. But yeah, no, that's an interesting idea for that kind of, those kind of ideals to filter down through these different Jedi and finally wind up kind of in Ahsoka and driving Ahsoka. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah. So yeah, then we had the Toons, which were fun, and the Trandoshan, and the fight that Rafa has with the Trandoshan. It's cool to see fights that are not based around like blasters and lightsabers or anything like that, where you really feel like all this character is in like way over their head with the.
Yeah, I did like that. Yeah, I like that scene a lot, actually, with the futility that as soon as that pipe like curves over the head, you're like, oh, how does she win this?
Mm-hmm.
That was very cool. I did like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and then at one point during the fight, a sound comes from the Trandoshan that is just as familiar as a Star Wars sound to me. So it took me a second to realize, oh, that's not a Star Wars sound. That's a Jurassic Park sound. And he makes a sound.
Oh, no way.
He makes a raptor like bark sound. So
I didn't even notice that. That's wonderful.
Which is because like Jurassic Park, like the sound design in that movie by Gary Rydstrom, it took me a while growing up to realize Ben Burtt did not do Jurassic Park as well, because I think of like the sound design in both of these worlds to be very similar, and how kind of like otherworldly they are and how iconic they are. Yeah, I thought that was cool. And then in doing some research on that today, I found out where that particular sound came from, which I've always heard that he used a mixture of like geese and dolphins and walruses for the raptors. And he did an interview 5 years ago, Gary Rydstrom did, in which he revealed that raptor barking sound he got from this tortoises mating.
Nice. I recall, this has nothing to do with Star Wars, but there was this one time when I can't remember. Actually, I do remember what movie I was working on at the time, but it's not worth talking about what the movie actually was. But we were shooting on this ranch, and they had this pen of tortoises, like these pen of like giant tortoises, and there were I feel like I remember like at least 2 pairs of tortoises doing it, like behind us while we were shooting the scene, and like more than once we had to reset because of like tortoise sex noises. So they're not insignificant sounds.
You never felt like you were being attacked by a raptor?
Not distinctly, but maybe, maybe there is like a deep neurological connection that just like triggered in my brain, like, oh, get away from this situation. It is dangerous. That's funny. I like that insight a lot. And that's cool, especially because like I have a real issue, and maybe this is a thing we mentioned before. One of my many real issues with Clone Wars is the Trandoshans just sound goofy as hell. They're these like super menacing, like 6 foot tall lizard creatures with just sharp everything, and then they got this kind of cartoony voice.
Yeah,
it's like what?
And then Bosk, I went and like re-listened to like his voice, and it's not even like in that his voice is like very low, and it's so weird. I'm not even gonna try to like replicate it, but it doesn't sound anything like what you hear in Empire, which the Empire one is like
just that
kind of a thing, and that's what you want to hear.
Guttural, underdeveloped. Yes, that's what I want. Raspiness, weirdness. I don't understand why that was taken out of the characterization of a Trandoshan's voice, but whatever. These are not things for me to decide. These are things for people who get paid to decide them to decide.
You're going to be really excited near the end of Rebels when you find another Trandoshan voiced by Seth Green.
Is that what I sound like?
That's just weird. That's already just weird. I do love me some Seth Green though. Yeah. I watched Idle Hands this week, which is a movie I've seen many times.
Yeah,
but it's a good classic Seth Green performance. Yeah, just 1 year out from Can't Hardly Wait.
Yeah,
and 2 years from Josie and the Pussycats.
How many years away from Austin Powers?
Oh, the first Austin Powers was actually
96?
97.
Oh.
97. So that was pre Can't Hardly Wait and pre Idle Hands. Yeah, he is in the first one, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I think of Scott, when I think of Scott Evil, I think of the second one, but I'm sure he's in the first one as well.
Yeah. I think he is in the first one. I don't remember. Well, we have the Google.
Yeah.
We'll find out. But yeah, that'll be weird when I get to that. Who knows when I'll get to that? I'll get to it someday. I meant this week to start catching up on... This is like really great podcast conversation topic. I meant to read Star Wars comics this week, and I didn't. Really... really key information for every listener of this podcast. Things Alex Brunel did not do. Yes, he was in the first Austin Powers movie. Okay, question answered. Oh yeah, he was an enemy of the state for like a minute and a half.
Yeah, Scott Evil completes the Austin Powers trilogy.
He lives.
Yeah, that was my last note on this episode.
Yeah, I wish I had more things to talk about. It feels like with every week I have like less things to say about episodes of Clone Wars than I did the week before, and I always feel like, why don't I have more to say? But like I don't think a lot of stuff really happened in this episode. Like there were the big things that got us excited, and like, but really the episode is to it just nicely kind of tidies up these arcs with the Martezes and sets up where we're going in the last four, and that's all it really needs to do. So like it was effective in that way. I enjoyed it. We talk about how great the show looks every week. This is another great looking episode. We learned that Toongs can be blue.
Yeah.
In addition to green.
They aren't just great at pod racing.
A good looking episode.
And even it's very questionable. We never actually saw him race.
Quadronero's power coupling.
Yeah, we know they're great at existing. Yeah, existing. I think that's what we know that they're great at. That they definitely exist. They don't make for good first lines of defense. Obviously, they're easily persuaded and small, so those things work against them. I wonder if we're going back to like small weird aliens in Clone Wars. Like why haven't we hit up Endor? Why haven't we hung out with some Ewoks?
Well,
why haven't we hung out with Ewoks? Is there a reason?
Probably. I mean, they're going to be hard to animate. I know it was hard for them when they made the Wookiees because furry creatures with the kind of animation style that they use are one thing.
It's true.
Also, I guess Endor, I don't know if they'd be even planning to do anything around there at that time. They're still working on the first Death Star. I don't know.
That's true. I just, let's canonize Wilford Brimley, I guess, is my point.
Oh, yeah. What's the little girl's name in those movies?
Sindel.
I had seen somebody speculate that Sindel, because of like the blonde hair and everything, like grew up to be Captain Phasma.
What an absurd theory. That little girl is like so pure to the idea that she could grow up into Captain Phasma is like, that is maybe the most ridiculous, that's the ridiculous Star Wars theory I've heard since, was it Short Luke or is it Tall Luke? Have you heard about this one? This is a very serious Star Wars conspiracy theory.
That one, I don't know.
Wait, let me Google and see if I can find it.
Yeah, ring a bell once I hear it.
No,
I know
Luke
of like
short
and tall Snaggletooth.
Oh, bigger Luke. Okay, it's bigger. There's a whole website.
Oh, is it because of like his relation to R2?
It's his relation to. I'm trying to find the crux of the big. I'm quoting an article from the Nerdist by Dan Casey to properly attribute the words I'm about to read. The crux of the bigger Luke theory is as follows. Luke Skywalker's height in the original trilogy is inconsistent, and the only explanation is that there is another bigger Luke Skywalker out there somewhere.
That boy is our last hope.
No, there is another.
And it goes into this whole thing. It has to do with his relation in size to other characters. There's all kinds of like supporting screen caps with like kind of like, look, if he's next to this person and this person is this high, then why isn't Luke taller here? And it's this. Okay, I'm again reading this article on Nerdist. His favorite piece of evidence: Lando Calrissian's confused look when he sees Luke for the first time in Cloud City in The Empire Strikes Back. And here's a quote from the Bigger Luke website. During the scene, Lando Calrissian lays eyes on our hero for the very first time and quickly loses interest. However, toward the end of the scene, Lando appears to be staring at Luke with a very perplexed expression. Being the proficient card player and gambler he is, one would assume that Lando Calrissian had a very keen eye, perhaps the best eyes in the galaxy. It is therefore distinctly possible that Lando did in fact perceive a height difference change in Luke between the two glances he shot at Luke.
Oh my.
And there's like a converse theory to this that is small Han, I think.
Wow.
Which is like, and you would think that like maybe like the bigger Luke guy would be like, maybe it's small Han. Like, no, the bigger Luke guy is like really diametrically opposed and angry about the idea of small Han. And small Han is like it's like those people are persona non grata in the bigger Luke theory universe. This is what is making me think of when we talk about when we talk about Sindel being Captain Phasma. Oh, but this picture you sent me on my phone of R2 with Luke, this is very compelling evidence for the existence of bigger Luke.
Last Jedi Luke is bigger Luke.
Oh my God. I can't even begin to even want to wrap my brain around like how the bigger Luke people are dealing with the sequel trilogy. If you want to look more into this, the website is biggerluke.wikidot.com, and there is a big article really running down this bigger Luke theory. But going oh my God, now I'm just reading this. Bigger Luke, commonly abbreviated to BL, or more uncommonly BGL, is the slightly larger manifestation of Luke Skywalker that is said to appear in certain scenes of the original Star Wars trilogy, contrasting regular Luke, or Luke Prime. The appearance of bigger Luke in a particular scene is generally, but not always, judged relative to the height of Han Solo. As such, Han is the primary go-to frame of reference among bigger Luke theorists.
Oh, because so no wonder these people like don't want to acknowledge the smaller Han, because then their point of reference
then
is
everything's out the window.
Yeah. But you go
totally. Because of this, quote, no Han pics, commonly abbreviated to NHP, are generally discouraged, as it is very difficult to determine Luke's height without Han Solo as a constant frame of reference. Whilst uncommon, the use of other Star Wars characters to judge Luke's height are not unheard of. The second most common character to judge if bigger Luke is in the scene or not has generally been Obi-Wan, followed closely by Princess Leia. Here's the best part of this intro. The activity of combing the original Star Wars trilogy for instance of bigger Luke is known as luking. This is a whole world out there for you podcast people to get into.
Has anybody brought this up to Mark Hamill? How would he respond if somebody like legitimately brought this up?
Too short for a stormtrooper? Huh?
He would probably have something to say about it, whereas if like you brought it up to Harrison, he'd probably just go, I don't care. I don't care. Going back, one thing I always really like talking about, and this is like an early example of like Lucas weirdness, I feel like is these back. I'm going back to the Ewoks movies now. So the first film, in Ewok Adventure, Caravan of Courage, you have the whole family. You have Sindel and her brother Mace and two parents.
The first Mace in Star Wars.
The first Mace in Star Wars, yes. And by the way, that actor, I can't remember his name, but he like put out an album a couple years ago, and like it's like this really like bad like garage band like electronica stuff, but there's a song about his character from the Ewoks movies.
I did not know that.
I know, it's so weird. So like the first movie is about Mace and Sindel, and they have to rescue the parents because they were kidnapped. And George Lucas's daughter only liked Sindel. She didn't like Mace. She didn't like the parents. She just really liked Sindel. Lucas's answer to that is within the first 5 minutes of Battle for Endor, the second movie, Sindel, the whole rest of the family is murdered, like in the opening scene. And then Sindel is an orphan who is adopted by Wilfred Brimley and Teak, who's like this super speedy little, I don't even know what species that guy is, but he's just like this other weird, like Endor Speedy Gonzalez like species.
He's Nathan Hamill's favorite character.
So like,
yeah.
Is he? That's a good favorite character. Kudos to Nathan Hamill. But that always just like, really, like your solution that your daughter doesn't like these other characters is to like murder a little girl character's family in front of her at the outset of like the children's film sequel to the first children's film, because those are inarguably children's films.
Yeah, I've yet to show the kids that one. So,
but yeah, that's the Ewok movies amuse me to no end. I like those movies a lot. I think probably we talked about them before on the podcast. Yeah, there's a whole world of fun stuff out there to learn about the original Star Wars sequels.
Yeah, and Bigger Luke is something I never even knew about. Now I'm gonna be on the lookout. I'm gonna be looking.
Yeah, there's I'm looking at this article still. The canon Luke hypothesis, sometimes simply the Bigger Luke hypothesis, in which it is theorized that within the Star Wars universe and canon there does indeed exist a version of Luke Skywalker that is slightly larger than Luke Prime. And there's also the Hamill hypothesis, in which it is theorized that there exists an uncredited Mark Hamill lookalike who was used in certain scenes of the original trilogy for undisclosed reasons and whose identity has yet to be determined.
Wow.
Go Luking, everybody. I think that's a good quarantine activity. Yeah. Study the Star Wars films and go Luking. It is currently safer than most other activities.
At least physically.
Yeah, no one will want to be around you for sure when you're
Yeah,
looking.
we take no responsibility for the psychological dangers you're about to embark.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
Correct. We are not doctors.
Cool. So, until next week, I think next week's episode is called Old Friends Not Forgotten.
Ooh, a tantalizing title.
So again, just like Together Again, just like kind of like every episode, I feel like we're like, oh, what does that mean? And then we'll find out.
Yeah, we've been it's meant nothing every time basically.
Well, I mean, Gone with a Trace, we're like, what? Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Gone with a Trace is some very punny kind of stuff. Yeah. But yeah, well, it's a tantalizing episode title enough to keep me interested until Friday when I can watch it.
I think Maul is going to be the friend that nobody forgot about. So
I hope that part of the arc is that they become friends and then become enemies again within the space of 4 episodes.
They could do that.
Maul has the briefest change of heart.
Wow. I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah.
All right.
So in the meantime, where can people find more of your work, Alex?
I'm on Instagram at Alex Brunel and on Twitter at Alex Brunel.
And you can find this show on Twitter as at Who Watches Pod, and on Instagram. We're on Facebook. You can subscribe to us on iTunes. No, Apple Podcasts now. It's not iTunes anymore. They changed that. We're on Stitcher. We're on Spotify, Google Podcasts. Where do you get your podcasts, Alex?
I do a weird thing where I like to listen to my media locally, so I load RSS feeds for podcasts into a Windows application called CPod, which then downloads them to my computer, and I can put them on my MP3 player and listen to them at my leisure.
Cool. Yeah, you can do that with this podcast as well.
CPod. Yes, I did find this podcast just by searching in like searching keywords in the in CPod. So totally available on CPod also.
And then subscribe any which way. Leave us reviews on any of the services you listen to us from. Follow us on all of those platforms and
do it.
And until next time, go out looking and begun the end of the Clone Wars has.
Well, I'll put you on the spot right now.
All right, go.
Are you or are you not in favor of Ben Quadraneros being in the show?
Ben Quadraneros?
Ben Quadraneros.
No, I don't think there's a space for Ben Quadraneros in the show.
There you have it there. So anyone
Yeah, I don't think it should happen.
Okay, so
that's
there
just
it
me.
is. There it is.
Yeah, but that's just me.
There it is.
Personally, I don't see.
What's your reason?
Why? I think it's just you want to leave the mystery where it is,
The mystery.
Yeah.
Really?
You know,
The
the legend of Ben
The whole
Quadraneros.
rest of Phantom Menace.
That could be his one bad race. We don't know.
Oh yeah, he's like.
He could be. We don't know.
Superstar.
He could be.
He could.
I mean, we could do a whole sort of Senna documentary style thing.
Senna, yeah. we
Just
could.
about
That'd actually be
Ben
great.
Quadraneros.
Yeah.
You know, because that was the one sort of tragic race that he entered was that one where it didn't work out. But otherwise,
That one didn't quite seem to go his way.
yeah. But so yeah,
Actually, a really good idea. I'd be into that.